Hello, everyone. It's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria. I have a Master's of Science degree in Human Nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. I graduated in 2012. I also have a Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Penn State, graduated in 2009. So today I am going to be answering some questions and responding to comments on my latest video, Why Eva Loves Raw is No Longer Vegan, because it's had a lot of comments. So let's get right into this video. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. I hope you're all doing well today. I also am filming a day in the life video for you guys today. It's mainly going to be showing what I eat in a day. I haven't done one of these in a while. So I figured it's time, and it's going to show a little bit of what I do in a day as well. So it is the morning, and my little man is still asleep right now. So I'm trying to get some work done before it's his time with me. And my plan is to go to the gym in a bit, do some running. I'm running every other day right now, and I feel like it's really building my VO2 max well and increasing my cardio fitness. So make sure you guys, have a nice exercise routine going on, paired up with the high carb, low fat, sufficient calorie diet, because they really work magically together to make a slim, fit, healthy physique. You want that flat belly, that tight body, that's effortless to maintain. You gotta do both the diet and exercise. Okay, so getting into this video. So the reason why I want to go over the comments is because Eva actually commented. So this video got to her, which is great. And it's already had 1.2 views in one day, 1.2K views in one day, which is really good for my videos. I usually don't have that many views in such a short period of time, but I feel like as I continue making content, my channel will grow and it'll all happen organically. I don't do any of those promotional deals or whatever to pump my content out. Whatever you see in terms of my subscribers and commenters and stuff is, it's all who it's reaching. I do have to block some people from commenting because they get a little abrasive and aggressive. So if you don't see your comments, that's because I blocked you. Okay, so 104 comments. I'm not going to be able to get to all of these, but I do want to comment on Ava's comment first. Okay, so says Ava here, and this is Ava Thrives. Maybe she changed her channel name already. It says, I've never seen your videos, and now I know why. It's because I tell the truth. I now believe a raw vegan diet is a disaster, nutritionally speaking, if done too long, but that's not to say it could work for some. Well, that would be the perspective of somebody who spent the majority of their time eating a vegan diet, not understanding the importance of consuming sufficient carbohydrates. And that was very clear in the What I Eat in a Day analysis video I did of Ava, where we saw she only eats about 1,200 calories a day. She's very fruit phobic, very calorie phobic, very carb phobic. So that equals ex-vegan every single time. Your viewers deserve the whole story and not a cherry-picked version that suits your narrative. So for those interested in the truth and not some spin-off of the facts, here it goes. So what I will say in response to that is that I didn't watch the whole Why I'm No Longer Vegan video that she put up. I just didn't have the time. So I was just trying to quickly pull reasons why she's saying she's no longer vegan. But everyone who says they're no longer vegan, they always say the same thing. Like, my hair was falling out, my brain was deteriorating, I wasn't getting my period. And these are all not symptoms of a vegan diet. They're symptoms of long-term calorie restriction. What drove me to raw veganism in the first place was a desire to heal a chronic, painful, and debilitating monthly cycle. I was told by doctors a hysterectomy could very well be in my near future. Thinning hair and general weakness that also had me fainting on occasion. It's important to share that at that time, I had already been vegetarian for about a decade and vegan for about 3.5 years. When it comes to dysmenorrhea, it's very important to keep your fat intake low and to be making sure you're eating sufficient carbohydrates so that you're giving your body the fuel it needs to deal with painful periods. I've helped a lot of women deal with this chronic, problem. I myself used to have it as well, and having like irregular cycles. And now I just had my period and it lasted for maybe 3 days. And I had one day of pretty regular bleeding. And then the other two was really light. And I had virtually no cramping. I was maybe a little bit tired and needed to eat more. But that was it. And that's how my period has consistently been, eating a high carb, low fat diet. I've had no problem conceiving. I have to be careful because I'm very fertile. Breastfeeding does help with that, but even I'm still currently breastfeeding, and my cycle comes regularly right now. So yeah, everything works great. I just, but that's because I eat enough calories to support a high functioning metabolism. The other thing too that I would suggest is if you're dealing with these kinds of things, painful periods, thinning hair, general weakness, fainting on occasion, get some blood work done, because to me, these are red flags that maybe estrogen is low, maybe there's iron deficiency, anemia present. So it's good to get some objective measures to see what could really be going on. Admittedly, I had indulged in Impossible Burgers and other junky vegan foods in my last couple of years of veganism. Before raw veganism, I believe, did an excellent job of eating whole vegan foods. I actually went to a vegan nutritionist who helped me hone into an excellent and well-rounded vegan diet. That's great. Unfortunately, the extra care I put into my vegan diet did not alleviate my symptoms, and I gradually got worse. That's because she probably needed to be really strict with no overt fats and, eating enough carbohydrate. I then learned about raw veganism, and then again, getting the blood work too that I suggested to, and then maybe having a sonogram, make sure you're not dealing with cysts. There's a lot of things like that, could be done to really hone in on what could have been going on with her, instead of just like making it just completely a dietary problem. Because usually, the diet can influence disease development, and it can also be preventative, but it's important to kind of get an idea of what's truly going on with the body, as well as getting an idea of what's going on metabolically speaking. And a lot of blood work can show, if you have some insulin resistance or things like that. I then learned about raw veganism after reading all I could about it. I promptly enrolled myself for 9 weeks at the Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. Okay, world premieres holistic vegan healing center. I'm not sure that they are actually like a true, like, accredited facility to learn all about this modality of eating. I completed their health educator program to also be able to share with others this way of eating. But did you learn anything about nutrition at this place? Is my question. And how the metabolism works. Because you really need to have like when I talk about my credentials, it means that I have a fundamental understanding of how our body works from a biochemical and physiological perspective, not just, raw food is good, cooked food is bad type deal, because there's so much more that goes into everything than just that dogmatic, thinking. And It was then I became a total devotee of raw veganism, and I did excellent for a good 4 to 5 years. I also have to point out I was not a fruitarian nor a low fat raw vegan and ate a good 2,000 calories per day. Because I'm a total type A and I like to do things well, I continually checked and consulted with a PhD in nutrition and 60-year raw vegan who also periodically read my blood work test results. Okay. I'll admit I did take it far with all the detoxing, gut cleansing, and other pseudo holistic healing practices. I definitely drank the Kool-Aid, but because I was doing great, it was all good. During this time, I experienced what I believed to be menopause as I gradually lost my period, but because I was at that age, I didn't think much of it and continued on. Eventually, my raw vegan diet started to run out of steam, and I began to experience some of the symptoms that had led me there in the first place. The hair loss started again, brain fog, muscle loss, etc. And because I thought it was due to being postmenopausal, I thought I needed to better my raw vegan diet even more in order to combat postmenopausal symptoms, but it made no difference how much or what I ate. I still question, like, did you have blood work to check your thyroid at this time? Particularly because the video that I saw that she put up, the calorie content of that was 1,200 calories. If you're avoiding carbohydrates, that's what helps our thyroid to produce thyroid hormones. So, you know, I would have liked to see more objective measures instead of just blaming the diet, because I've been vegan, high carb, low fat vegan for almost 13 years now. No health problems. I cleared up a lot of stuff. My last blood work showed that my hemoglobin is the best it's ever been being like vegan or even not vegan, because I suffered from iron deficiency anemia prior to going vegan. So yeah, this diet works. You just have to do it right. I then started to reincorporate cooked vegan whole foods and starches into my diet, but I didn't do better. And this is the second time she's mentioned whole foods. Now, the thing with whole foods is that people can get really dogmatic into whole foods, thinking that, that's the only real food. But to be completely honest, when you are eating any kind of a diet, whether it's standard American diet, vegan diet, and now people are going to disagree with me here, having a combination of whole foods with some processed foods, which processed foods could be like, oh, you're cooking a potato, that's processing it, right? But I'm talking about like white rice is a processed food, it's a refined grain. Flour products, sugar, these are processed foods that can be included on a high carb, low fat vegan diet or any vegan diet or anybody's diet that aren't foods that are going to damage your health. Okay. They are high carb options that supply the body with the carbohydrates it needs in order to generate energy. People for a long, long time have been eating versions of refined carbohydrates where they've been making flour, using sugar primarily in order to make bread and things like that. So refined carbohydrates are not like evil. They can be health promoting. And oftentimes people get stuck in this whole food dogma, and that can be problematic because then they fall into the low calorie density only eating, where it becomes really hard to get enough calories because you're only sticking to these low calorie options. And in her case, I think that was part of the issue. Okay, so I then started to reincorporate cooked vegan whole foods and starches into my diet, but I didn't do better. At this point, I started to crave and think about animal products, but was unwilling to go that route as I hadn't eaten meat in over 19 years. When you're craving animal products, it means you're not eating enough calories. I would, and she probably was entering into that like refeeding phase where she had been, chronically under eating for probably the entirety of the time she was raw vegan. And I can relate to this because I did the same thing. And then I didn't have the ability to control what it was that I was going to eat after coming out of that and entering refeeding and going all in, because I was so starved. So that's like, if you're craving animal products, you're under eating. I had blood work done to see if anything had changed since I had last checked, and my doctor interpreted my results. He said everything looked fine, but my hair was really thinning now and I looked pale and gaunt. What was the blood work that you had done is my question. Because looking pale and gaunt and thinning hair is definitely, sounding like iron deficiency, anemia, and or hypothyroid. I went to plant-based and highly sought after iridologist. Okay, that's a red flag right there. An iridologist, I don't know if those people actually have any kind of true like credentialing. And she advised I make an egg mask to put on my hair since she knew I wasn't open to eating eggs. She also recommended a ton of different supplements. I was already supplementing B12, etc. Now, being that I'm long-term vegan and I'm also raising my children to be vegan, none of us have any issues with hair, skin, and nail growth. My children have very thick, long heads of hair. My baby has a thick head of hair. I naturally have like a thinner hair, but a lot of it, that's just my genetics. I've never had any issues with my hair falling out or thinning or anything. But again, eating enough calories and nutrition is important when you're eating any diet, because people who eat animal products or standard American diet, they do experience these same symptoms, and it's just related to undereating in general. Okay, I did that for a while with no results until one day, out of desperation, I decided to just eat the egg instead. I did that for about 2 months and noticed I felt a lot better. It wasn't an easy decision and felt really torn, but my apprehension ended when, after 3 months of eating eggs, which are chicken periods, they come out of their butt. And a lot of people are questioning whether or not eggs are natural, because if a chicken was not subjected to barn living and didn't have a rooster around, the rooster would fertilize all the eggs. So every egg that a chicken would lay would become a chicken, because a chicken doesn't eat its eggs. Like a lizard will come by and like eat eggs, right? Like the unfertilized eggs. But unfertilized egg harvesting is a man-made concept, because in nature there would never be an unfertilized egg. The male bird would be fertilizing that egg. Maybe something would happen where it just didn't work out, but yeah, the eating of eggs is totally a man-made situation. And egg consumption is also linked to prostate cancer in men. I was putting raw egg yolks into my smoothies. I got my period again. Mind you, at that time, I was 53. If that's not a testament to the power of proper nutrition, I don't know what it is. There's a lot of context mixing here. Were you eating more calories in general? These are my basic questions, instead of just like, oh, the egg was just like this miracle food. No, you were probably just eating more calories in general. Like I said, I have no problem getting my period and I eat a vegan diet. And I've been doing that for 13 years. After I got my cycle back and it was quite apparent I was not, in fact, in menopause, I decided to reintroduce animal products back into my diet, because I now believe the problem after all these years has been the lack of animal products in my diet. Even though it wasn't an easy decision, I don't regret it in the slightest. So many ex-vegans make the same statement, and they all came from some dogmatic, orthorexic, calorie restrictive vegan diet. Okay. And then they blame veganism. Like there was some raw vegan woman who died last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before that. And she was anorexic, and the headlines blamed it on veganism. or suggested that it was veganism when she was in fact anorexic. Okay, I'm so happy I chose me and my health. Well, if you would have understood anything about human nutrition, you could have been supporting your health this whole time instead of now you're exploiting these poor animals that we are killing like 90 billion a year for human consumption, and it's totally unnecessary. I know animals would eat me too if they had to. Only the carnivores. To those who say I was never vegan, fine if that makes you feel better. To those who say I did it wrong, I just have to laugh. But the thing is, you did do it wrong. Your what I eat in a day video that I analyzed, you said you were afraid of fruit and sugar and carbohydrates. Like that's a red flag that you had a problem. To those who say, what about this person or that or this or that doctor? I say good for them, but that doesn't mean the results are universal. Veganism has an incredible high dropout rate. It doesn't work for a lot of people. That's because most people come to veganism with some kind of disordered eating mentality. Or they just want to be skinny and they are like, oh, veganism is a reductionist way of eating. So then I can just like avoid eating certain foods and just, eat low calorie density. There's so many people who did this. High Carb Hannah, Planable Kiki, um, Melissa Alexandria, Healthy Emmy, Broccoli Mom, Chelsea May Cullen, and these women are all like yo-yo, one day they're eating 1,500 calories, the next they're like in a bulk stage. And that's because they just follow these unsustainable calorie restrictive modalities. Fortunately, these women all have the ability to understand that animal products aren't food. They're just like, stimulation and like a survival last ditch effort, right? But they don't understand the concept of eating enough carbohydrates for metabolic health, because nobody just reads like a basic and I paid like 30 grand for my education, so I don't expect anybody to have these textbooks and read the science and understand the science, because it is like a higher level of education and understanding. But that's why I wrote my coaching program, so that I could provide the information that I learned in my higher education to everyone at affordable rate, so that they can understand the human metabolism and what it takes for it to be healthy and for a human to eat healthy and to eat right. Okay, I'm glad it's working for you, or so it seems. But then again, your channel, group, and book sales depend on it. It is unlikely we'll ever know the truth about a lot of vegans' health. I am one of the most transparent people on YouTube. I've also been the most consistent with my diet and saying I'm vegan. I haven't made a lot of money doing this at all. I have been able to pay off one of my loans from my education. I still have quite a bit more, because I've just been doing the mom thing and been providing free content for the majority of the last decade since I've been on YouTube, just to share how to do a vegan diet correctly and how beautiful it can be and wonderful for your health when you do understand how to do it right. I urge vegans to stop the gaslighting and that you did it wrong, because that says the diet is infallible and therefore the individual shouldn't listen to the inner voice that says something's not right. But you did do it wrong, Ava. You underate. You didn't eat enough. And then when you started eating again, you were already in this like hole. It's called chronic undereating. And I don't want to like say that you were anorexic, but anorexics have to go to rehab in order to get better, and they have to enter refeeding, and they have to eat very high calorie dense food every single day. I have a friend who went into this and she said that they were forcing her to eat these meals. If she didn't eat them, then she had to have a feeding tube, and it's not vegan. They're using very high calorie density foods in order to refeed, put on the weight quick, and to get rid of the disease, right? I think there's a better way. I myself was in the same situation where I was chronically undernourished, underfed. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was like, you're anorexic, like you need some help. And so I was like, I'm smarter than this, like I can do this myself. And I watched a bunch of free Lise videos and I was like, wow, she eats 3,000 calories a day. I want to be able to do that. So I just started doing that. And then I had a little hiccup where I did eat animal products very briefly. But then I was like, they made me feel sick. And I was like, this is gross. And I just went all in on high carb, low fat vegan. It got my period back. It was regular. I put on a lot of weight. I mean, that's the thing that people don't want to do is they go to the animal products because they're like, oh, well, I can stick to this low carb diet, right? And it continues the, dieting cycle, the calorie restriction cycle, but you're getting more dense sources of calories in form of saturated fat. I mean, egg yolks are pure saturated fat and cholesterol for the most part. Same with like animal protein and fat, and all these foods contribute to human disease. So that's just something to be aware of, that you can refeed without eating animal products. I did it successfully. I gained 60 pounds. I've since lost 40 and I've had 3 kids, wonderful health in the meantime as I built my metabolism and my health back up from being, in the hole. So it is possible. You just have to understand how to do it right. And that's why I'm here to help people, who want my help to do the vegan diet right. I've helped women regain their fertility and their periods and get pregnant and have just like really good success with this style of eating. And not only, can you regain your health, but you can prevent chronic disease as well, because it lowers your chronic disease risk. Okay, follow your instincts, people. If you're not doing great on a vegan diet, don't risk your health and don't be intimidated by sanctimonious and patronizing vegans. The thing is I think that that's who she got her advice from when she was vegan. You know best. There are 0 voluntary vegan societies throughout the history of the world, and veganism, as I see it now, is an elitist movement. Okay, we're like 1% of the population, like in the US. Okay, so this is not an elitist movement. This is a new age nutrition movement. All of the research that has come out about veganism has come out in the last like 20 years, 30 years. It's relatively new. There's never been a population of people who've eaten vegan because it just was never a thing, but they have shown that the populations who've ate the most plant-based foods, like the Okinawans, traditional Asian cultures, and most of the native people throughout history have always had like a carbohydrate at the center of their diet that has allowed their population to thrive, like the, natives in the US, the Mayans, Incans, Irish, all these people, they've lived on, all the people in Africa, they're living on corn, rice, wheat, barley, potatoes. People do really well on fruit-based diets in the tropics. So there's always been a carbohydrate at the center of the diet. And Dr. Doug Graham was just talking about how when you look at longevity and you look at mortality rates, so whether somebody is able to live long on the diet they're eating or not so long, the people who've eaten a high carb, 70% of their diet or more in carbohydrates, and a relatively low fat, so less than like 20%, and then a protein intake around 10%, okay, that they live the longest. They have the lowest disease risk. So it's all about the carbohydrate and understanding that. So can veganism be dogmatic? Absolutely, if you don't understand this concept and you don't know how to eat enough carbohydrate. Oh, and save the children from the nonsense. Kids need animal products to grow properly. That is not true. My children are both in the upper percentile, upper normal percentile for their height and for their weight. Okay. Part of that's genetic, but the other part is that their nutrition is super efficient at growing them because it's easier for them to metabolize it. And they've had more access to high nutrient density, plant foods their whole lives. They were brought up on breast milk. But yeah, my kids have no health problems. She says, my oldest daughter has a bone malformation in her jaw, most likely caused because I limited her eating animal products. Talk about mommy guilt. The thing about nutrition for children in general is you just have to make sure that their diet has a lot of variety and they have access to enough calories. Okay. I believe I've said all I needed to say. I'm not defending myself. I have no agenda, no bias, no motive. I posted my video because people have the right to know how it turned out for me, and I felt it was the honest thing to do. Well, sure. I mean, everybody's always looking for the next ex-vegan, and it's pretty um uh obvious who that's going to be. So we're going to go ahead and look at some of the comments here. I want to find the one by my friend Pauline. Duce Frugolette. I probably just said that completely wrong, but sorry. When I saw Ava's sugar phobic videos years ago, I knew she would fall off the off the vegan wagon sooner or later. I never subscribed to her channel as this unsustainable lifestyle is not inspiring. Intermittent fasting does not work on women in particular. Keep up the good content, Victoria. Um, that's absolutely right. I mean, Ava, like, are you reading the comments on this video? Because most of the people could tell you were going to be ex-vegan just by what you were doing and, gaslighting me and other people who could tell that this was going to happen is just kind of not being able to see, yourself like full circle, the intermittent fasting, the sugar phobia. It just it leads to malnourishment. And then you end up in that hole that, many anorexics end up in. And I'm not saying that she was, I'm just saying that, it's not uncommon. Anybody who follows that path of undereating eventually ends up in that place. I will never stop. This is Dave's art room. I will never stop being vegan. To be honest, I eat some processed foods, but that is on me and will not make me go away from veganism. Vegan is a lifestyle. I love it. Processed foods are not bad, especially if they're high carb, low fat. Okay. So we're talking about like sugars and flours, right? They are a fine addition to a vegan diet, and they give you a lot of variety to, eat when you're traveling or whatever. I eat mostly a fruit and rice based diet, and it's been excellent for my health. And it's so easy to just, have access to those foods and to, stick to the diet because I'm eating sufficient carbohydrate calories every day. And that's what it all comes down to when it comes to your health and ability to thrive on a diet is how much carbohydrate do you have access to? And are you willing to eat? I'm so glad this is Lee's lifestyle. I'm so glad you made this video. I went back to her what I eat in a day videos and was shocked at how little she ate. She was starving herself, but she claims a vegan diet was making her sick. Spot on. I'm eating a fruit-based raw vegan diet, and as a postmenopausal woman who has struggled with symptoms of menopause, I will not go after another woman's journey because if you've never been post-menopause, you won't get it. But she says that she wasn't actually in menopause. Her period came back. What worked in your 30s, 40s when your hormones are optimal may not work when they tank, and food doesn't replace hormones during this phase, but diet can help. But you have to find what works for each individual woman, just like you'll never know what having a baby is like unless you've given birth. You'll never know what a menopausal woman goes through until you get there. Sure. The thing is that people deal with menopause the best. And this has been shown in studies. I'm referencing Dr. Neal Barnard's most recent published book about hormone health. And he says that traditional Asians report, minimal to no menopausal symptoms, and that it comes down to their high carb, low fat diet and their soy consumption. I highly recommend checking out the book. I'll leave a link for the title of that in the description because I can't remember it right now. And that was from Quiet Store Maps. Okay. Lolita Zatz, I'm happy you made this video. I reversed 10 years of amenorrhea and hair loss, plus a laundry list of other modalities with a high fruit, raw vegan diet. Excellent. I experienced the same thing because when I transitioned to eating high carb, low fat, unlimited calories, my first like year and a half was raw vegan. I was completely, fruits and greens, gained all the weight I needed to, got my period back, everything was working great. Go Rodent says, excellent video, Victoria. Very good explanations. Castro 821, great analysis on this question. Do you think it's best to have smoothies with just fruit only? I feel whenever I have smoothies with spinach, I get bloated. There is a doctor called Brooke Goldner that promotes green smoothies with 1/4 a cup of chia or flax every day. I tried it and was beyond bloated. Fruit digests the best when it's just fruit. A mono fruit smoothie is going to be the most optimal. I will have like combinations of fruit in my smoothies. I do find that putting greens in the smoothies can cause bloating. It can also interfere with your ability to get enough carbohydrate out of the smoothie. So you might drink the smoothie and then be like, wow, I really need more food because the smoothies took up volume. I've made a video about my opinion on Brooke Goldner's plan. I think that she takes people who eat a standard American diet and put them on a plant-based diet, and they get better because they're not eating the crap that they were prior. But I work with a lot of her ex-clients because her program is unsustainable. It's too low in carbohydrate in order for it to be sustainable long term. And her smoothies are like green packed with these chia seeds and, a little bit of fruit. She says that, a little bit of fruit for flavoring. She doesn't acknowledge that fruit is actually the most nutritionally dense food on the planet when you factor in the micronutrients plus it being naturally high carb, low fat. And that it doesn't need to be cooked, which means that you're not going to denature any of the nutritional value in the fruit. I just think, that some people like to not acknowledge that, and it makes me think that they don't know the full spectrum of metabolic health when they say that, fruit just for flavor instead of fruit for energy. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that they're working with people who are insulin resistant, but got to pull it up. Insulin resistance is caused by under eating carbohydrate and eating a diet that's too high in fat. So Brooke Goldner's plan could potentially be making people insulin resistant, down the line. Like it might like fix the initial symptoms of just like a really poor diet, but then because sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation, which would just be under eating carbohydrate or the taking of diets with a high fat content, you're going to run into issues with blood sugar long term, or like Ava, avoiding the fruit, avoiding the carbohydrate, probably because you think it's going to make you fat, right? Like that's something that Ava hasn't talked about, is she's very skinny and maybe she was afraid to like gain the weight that she needed in order to be metabolically healthy, and just here it says sugar tolerance is improved by taking of diets containing an excess of carbohydrates. So if you want to be metabolically healthy, if you want to be insulin sensitive, then eating a high carb, low fat diet that's sufficient in calories is the foundational step that you have to take. Okay, let's get back to answering a few more questions here. Okay. I think I read. Thank you for the video, Victoria. It made me thinking about my high raw vegan diet and starting to eat more. Great. Such an informative video. Thank you. You're welcome. Great analysis on this. Okay, I just read that one. Thank you so much. Wanted to hear your feedback. You're welcome. I feel like I have a very objective approach to analyzing these kinds of things. A lot of people don't like to hear the truth. Um, and I guess I can kind of come off a little snarky, but I that's not my intention. I'm really here to just help people improve their metabolic health so that they can experience the ultimate level of food and body freedom, which is what I've gained for myself and what I help my clients gain for themselves as well. Um, and like I see everybody's ex clients. Like my husband was asking me the other day, he's like, why don't, more people come to you? And I said, I'm competing with trends. I'm competing with fad diets, right? Everybody has to trial those first, exhaust themselves, damage their metabolisms, and then they come to me to put them back together, which I'm happy to do. And that's why I make videos like this, because I don't want to see somebody, becoming a 3-2-1 vegan when it can be avoided just by doing some really basic things like eating sufficient calories. But like I said, a lot of people, women in particular, are afraid to gain weight. And that is oftentimes an initial required step for obtaining the metabolic health that you need in order to, get the results that you want long term. Okay, this is the problem I have with many previous or current raw vegans. I find many have real eating disorders and hence are attracted to the lifestyle until their health plummets. I believe high raw with some cooked is the best option. Absolutely. I have been able to eat this way effortlessly day in, day out, 365 days a year for 13 years because I eat a raw tofu diet. Fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, starchy dinner with vegetables, high carb, low fat, easy peasy, completely satiated, amazing health in the post. Okay. Having trained in the world of natural hygiene over 50 years ago, it is very simple. Fresh fruits and vegetables in season, preferably locally grown and not fractured. It is simple and not just diet. Move your body while getting plenty of sunshine. Wear natural fibers if you're wearing clothing, no soap or other stuff on your skin, and be outside as much as possible. It is so simple, and it is so very important to not complicate things with stuff. Trust the trust. Okay, the only problem with this natural hygiene movement or that Hippocrates Institute of Health is there's not enough context. Okay, just eat fruits and vegetables. Well, that's what Eva was doing, but she was under eating. Like there's more objectivity that comes into play when it comes to metabolic health and just being healthy in general. That's why doctors perform diagnostic tests. That's why blood work is drawn. That's why they take your BMI, because this isn't just a guessing game, even though, a lot of times in the world of healthcare, it can be in terms of like determining why somebody's health is in the state that it's in. But there's a lot of things that can be done that can show the inner workings of the human metabolism, why it could have gotten to be in the state that it's in. That's why I ask a lot of questions with my clients. Well, what was your previous diet like? What is your current health like? Have you ever had, taken pharmaceutical drugs or whatever it is? Because it can all, it all can, we are an accumulation of what we've been eating and doing, our whole lives, right? That's why we're in the state that we're currently in. So it's really important that you can kind of get some clues into, why is this person losing their hair? Oh, well, they've been eating a low carb diet and they have, elevated TSH. So they're hypothyroid. They need to eat more carbohydrates in order to encourage the thyroid hormone to start producing more hormones, which will improve hair growth. Okay. So there's a lot of things that it's more than just eat fruits and vegetables. Okay. If it was that simple, Ava wouldn't be an ex-vegan right now, okay? Because there's more that goes into play, which is why, um, understanding how energy production works and things like that in the human body is very important. And that's, why I wrote up my coaching program, which is currently on sale until the end of the month. If you are interested in learning more about that information and you're really just taking control of your health, because knowledge is power, right? When you have the right information, you can just run with it, and then you don't need, anybody else to tell you what to do. And then you can be discerning and be like half the people in these comments who are like, oh yeah, she was under eating, right? Okay, I was fully raw fruitarian vegan for a few months. No matter what I did, I was losing 15 pounds a month. A lot of people adopt a fruitarian diet for weight loss, and it does work really well because it is the most insulin sensitive that you're ever going to be, because fruit doesn't require a whole lot of insulin because it's a fructose glucose combination, and fructose doesn't require insulin in order to be metabolized. Now, with that said, a lot of fruitarians undereat, so you have to be aware of that and making sure that you're eating enough calories. My BMI bottomed out at 18, and I said, okay, raw experiment over. I added 2,000 calories of white rice to my raw fruit diet along with some lentils, and within 4 months my BMI was 21, which is ideal for me. I also gained about 20 pounds of muscle over the following year. I personally find that if I eat an all fruit diet, my weight goes down to about a BMI of 19. And now, I've been breastfeeding for the last like 10 years. So that is going to prevent my body from, being like too slim. Because I find that with myself, that breastfeeding, I store a little bit more body fat to support my milk production, which I'm completely fine with. Eating fruit and rice together, I also, effortlessly maintain a BMI of 20, 21. After my pregnancy, I was 22, then came down to 21, which is where I'm at right now, about 20, 21, somewhere in there. And then when I'm not breastfeeding, which I've only done that for about 6 months, my BMI dropped to like 18.5, 19 during that time. So if you're getting too slim, you need to add more fat to your diet, but make sure that there's still a sufficient amount of carbohydrates, because that will help to encourage that fat to be stored as fat to help you gain the weight that you need to. If you have a calorie deficit from carbohydrate in your diet and you're trying to gain weight, it's not going to work out very well. And you're actually going to slow your metabolism down. So most people want to look aesthetically like fit, whether they're, an 18 BMI or a 21 BMI or a 24 BMI or, a higher BMI, which a lot of bodybuilders end up having higher BMIs because they just hold more muscle, but you still want to like look fit instead of floppy. So you want to make sure you eat enough carbohydrates to keep a high metabolism and to keep your body nice and fit, and those muscles being able to utilize the sugar to grow and to get the gains, right? Hi, Victoria. Not a member of your coaching group, but think that an analysis says Anna K, who made a video about her negative experience with raw till 4, would be interesting. I did look into that person's channel. They have like 5 videos up, and the one she's referring to was a really popular, why raw till 4 didn't work for me video. I will do an analysis on that because I didn't watch the whole video yet. It has like 500,000 views on it. I can imagine she got impatient. A lot of people, when they adopt raw till 4 and start eating sufficient calories, gain a lot of weight, and they're unhappy with that. And then they quickly go and do something else. High carb Hannah is a really good example of this. She got impatient, so then she like restricted her calories after she had already rebuilt her metabolism on a high carb diet. High carb Hannah came from a really extensively bad like metabolic background where she was using a lot of like weight loss drugs and smoking cigarettes and not eating and doing a lot of fasting and juice fasting. And then, well, when you do all that stuff and have your appetite that suppressed and you start eating sufficient calories from a raw till 4 diet, well, you've got programmed insulin resistance. So you're going to have de novo lipogenesis, or the conversion of carbohydrates to stored fat, is going to be ramped up. And it's going to be like that until your body sense is that, okay, the famine's gone, we're getting enough calories, and then you slowly start to lose weight. And a lot of people describe the weight loss, and I've experienced this myself, on a high carb, low fat diet that's sufficient in calories. It drops in increments because you're dealing with hormonal changes. It's not calories in, calories out. Calories in, calories out works to, drop water weight and to um, lose lean muscle and to lose a little bit of fat, but it also slows your metabolism down, and then you plateau, and then you're kind of stuck because you've got this like metabolic damage, decreased thyroid hormone production. And yeah, it's just, you want to become insulin sensitive, and you do that with a high carb, low fat, plant-based, sufficient calorie diet. And then you let your body kind of take over, and it drops the weight as needed. Another good way to encourage body fat loss is increasing your VO2 max. So that's why, at the beginning of the video, I said you want the diet paired with the exercise, because taking in more oxygen allows you to burn more fat. So this increases your metabolic rate. You're going to get an increased metabolic rate from eating high carb, low fat, sufficient calories, but you're going to get an even bigger boost focusing on exercise and getting fitter, because you can take in more oxygen. Okay, just a few more, and I'm going to wrap this up. Vegan deterioration can't beat us on a bike. She can't beat us doing anything. Running race, probably blood work, an eating challenge. What I will say, vegan deterioration does highlight, these ex people who are gonna be ex vegans because they're under eating. She did bring me up in a recent post. I don't click on her content, but if you tag me in your content, that I'll see, what it is that you're posting. And she highlighted somebody who was in my comments saying basically that this protocol that I suggest doesn't work. I will say that that person was never one of my clients, and that I did get to talking to that person, and they had a lot more, going on, but then weren't willing to, sign up to work with me so that I could actually troubleshoot what it is, that they could have been doing that would have helped their cause. So, when you see things like that, and oh, this person, it didn't work for them, a lot of people will say that this doesn't work for them, and it's because 9 times out of 10 they're just not doing it right, or they're impatient, or whatever it is. Like, I've seen it all, and I've experienced it all myself too. So I guess, like, when I sound kind of matter of fact and snarky, it's just because I've experienced all of it, and I've figured out how to be successful on it. So that's why I've had a lot of success with my clients, and also why I promote this the way that I do, because I've done everything except for a carnivore diet. So I know, what to expect from people who come to work with me or just ask me questions. There's things that I can identify that I know has been, causing them to experience what they're experiencing. Anyways, this is going to be the last one here. Oh, wait. Megan Elizabeth is no longer vegan since she got her man. I wanted to look into her. I started, and apparently she gained a whole bunch of weight, and then she like lost it again. And then I looked at her diet, and it was like low calorie density, and she's just like a chronic yo-yo dieter. I really don't think that she has much conviction when it comes to anything other than, weight loss. So like, if people are yo-yoing on and off being vegan, it's because they, have some kind of orthorexia going on. You're 100% flat out wrong about it being bad to have a shorter eating window. I almost always only eat between 3 and 10 p.m. and my eating window is never longer than 5 or 6 hours, and I can easily eat 2,000 to 3,500 calories, and I have plenty of energy in the morning and afternoon before eating. There's nothing wrong with eating in the morning. If you're not hungry, you don't need to have a 10 to 16 hour eating window if you don't want to. Now, this all comes down to how much can you eat in your eating window. Like, some people do prefer this. Like, I get a lot of questions about Dr. Peter Rogers, who eats one meal a day. You know, if he's able to eat 2,000 to 3,500 calories in that eating window, then it's likely that he's not going to run out of glycogen by the time that, eating window comes back around. But with that said, you would have to be checking your fasting glucose and making sure that you're not bonking, aka running out of glycogen, and turning on gluconeogenesis, which is going to program the body for insulin resistance. So the thing with Eva, though, is that she ate about 1,200 calories in her 6-hour eating window, 5-hour eating window, whatever it was for that day that I looked at. That's not going to be enough to last you until the next time you eat. If you're able to get in 3,500 calories in your 5 to 6-hour eating window, that's a different story. Okay. But I will say, though, that spreading your food out more is going to be better for your blood sugar regulation than it is to shove everything into a smaller eating window, because you're just telling your body, especially if you're doing work and you're exercising and all those things, you're telling your body that there's not food available when it maybe needs to eat it because you're running low, right? And then, okay, here's a whole heap of food. And so we're going to store some of that as fat, because we know that we got to get through a whole another, session without having food. So the more regularly that you eat, you get up in the morning and you start moving while you eat something, bring your cortisol down. And that's the other thing, what your cortisol levels look like, and that relates to insulin resistance. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at here, in terms of blood work, just to make sure that this kind of way of eating is working for you. But eating throughout the day is going to be more beneficial for weight loss if that's the goal, because it's going to promote better insulin sensitivity. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much if you commented on this why Eva is no longer raw vegan video. I really appreciate your feedback. Leave any more comments and questions down below, especially like video topics that you'd like me to talk about. And I'll see you guys next time. If you made it to the end of this video, comment grape, because grapes are good right now. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.